Hello, everyone, and welcome to Autism Stories. I'm your host, Doug Bletcher, the founder of Autism Personal Coach. Autistic people are the true experts of the autistic experience, and Autism Stories is where we interview autistic people and others in the autism community to learn from their stories, experiences, and get their advice. If you would like to be notified about each week's episode of Autism Stories, we suggest you subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. We would also appreciate it if you could give us a positive rating and review, as it will help others to learn about autism stories. The expression "we've come a long way but have a long way to go" can be applied to lots of things. One of those things certainly is awareness and acceptance of autistic adults. On this episode of Autism Stories, we talk about that with Abby Brooke and what she is doing to spread these important messages in Kenya and what the heck a camel has to do with this message. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Abby, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Doug. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
I wanted to start out with and learn, like with so many of our guests, where does your story in the autism community begin?
Sure. Well, I was diagnosed at 13 with Asperger's syndrome. But of course, due to my location and where I am, I didn't really understand anything about it until I was about 27. And that's when I started looking online at social media and joining groups and meeting people. And that's where I fully started to understand what it meant and what my place in this being diagnosed meant.
Now, you're someone that's been born in Kenya and lives in Kenya. I've only spoken with one other person that's lived in Kenya, but they weren't born there. So I'm wondering, over the years, from your perspective, what type of change have you seen in the awareness and acceptance of autistic people in your country, and then maybe throughout, all of Africa?
Well, I was born in the 80s, so quite a while ago. There was not much awareness and understanding back then. And of course that slowly changed. But what I think people do have to realize in much of the developing world, that we're not as advanced as the West. So while things are changing, with the social media and people are more accepting it, there is some change, but not as much as there could be. So this is where the project that I'm doing, I hope to increase that change, bring more awareness, especially more with adults. As you probably know, that most of the autistic advancement is mostly with children, and there is, people tend to think that once we reach the age of 18, we're not autistic anymore. So it's kind of bringing that awareness that there are autistic adults. Yes, we are here.
It's always frustrating. I've talked about it on many occasions. The majority of your life, you're going to be an adult. So
Exactly. And so much of our support systems are aimed at children, and there's very little that is for adults.
now you're part of you created the Walking Autism Project, and you'll talk about that in a little bit. But one interesting aspect of the project that I guess makes it unique to Kenya is that there are camels involved, which certainly, being here in the United States, that's probably going to be a more difficult thing to occur. It's probably unlikely to find too many camels. So what's the purpose of the camels in relation to the Walking Autism Project?
Yeah, definitely. When I mention camels, people's eyebrows do tend to, what? So camels, because my project is primarily aimed at the catered more to the rural impoverished population, which that is where the support is most needed. I mean, of course, it's needed everywhere, but within the poorer, more rural community, this is where the most help is needed. So the camels it enables me to reach places that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get to in the car, and because I'll be catering this more to the rural impoverished population. So the camels gives it easier access to certain places, and even during the walks, when I do the walks, when I'm walking, I'll often have people come up to me and hear about the project and what I'm doing and why, and they will, people approach me on the road and say, "Can you help me? I have a child. I need assistance. Can you help me?" So that brings another aspect to the reaching many more people with the camels, and I enjoy camels. I love walking and camels, and it's a nice aspect to it.
So the camels help you through with the Walking Autism Project to reach rural and impoverished areas to kind of promote autism awareness and acceptance.
Exactly, and reach more people, get to assist more people, and it brings another more community effect. I feel, if I was in the car, it would be quite different, because then you're missing quite a number of people who could benefit from help.
As part of the Walking Autism Project, you've walked in 1 week, I think I read, up to 150 kilometers and up to 450 kilometers in 1 month, and visited over 100 communities in which you've held workshops. What are some key points you try to get across during these workshops?
So during the workshop, I have my partners in the project, and they join me once a month for the workshops. This previous walk, it was once a week because it was only 1 month. And they come and do the workshops with me, and we talk about support systems, what individuals can do, how we can help our loved ones, little tips and tricks, and what I do is I bring the person, the personal aspect, which is actually living with autism, and I speak about, because what you find is normally professionals and therapists, they talk about autism. I speak from the personal viewpoint and why we need acceptance, why we need awareness, why we need to be included in society.
Now, walking 150 kilometers in a week or 450 kilometers in a month is quite a bit of walking. I know movement for me in my adult life has been so beneficial. So I was wondering, what is the benefits you've seen for yourself in in these walks?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, walking has always been my therapy, my meditation. So as I'm walking, it's giving me the much needed meditation, especially when I am sharing so much on this project, and I am sharing vulnerable parts of myself, which I haven't really opened up about my autistic story so much before. So by doing this, the walking gives me a chance to relax and to kind of regroup back to myself, and of course gives me time to think on how I can improve the next talk, or what did I miss on the last talk, and how I can improve the next one. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's very healing, therapeutic, not And of course, the exercise, it gives me the needed exercise I need. I love it.
An important aspect of autism stories, maybe some would call the mission of this podcast, is showing that autistic people are the true experts, not just of their lives, but also the autistic experience. So, wondering, when you've presented your workshops, what has been the response to you specifically as an autistic advocate?
It's mixed. It's mixed because, like I said, there are there's not much awareness regarding autistic adults here. Stigma and discrimination is still quite prevalent. So it's finding the courage to be open and to talk about it. And I know personally, for me, it took a long time to actually get to the point where I was comfortable talking about it, because I have experienced all the discrimination and the teasing and bullying and that. So yeah, I mean, when I share my story, really, people do gain lots from it, because I'm talking about things I've experienced and the hardships and why I decided to do this. And hopefully, with my doing this, more people will be able to open up. And yeah, so the mixed reaction. Some people don't quite fully understand that autism is a spectrum. So probably most people will be more used to classic autism, if I could call it that. So by me speaking out, it's a lot of mixed reactions. Some people don't really quite believe it, but some people are very, very thankful, and they've told me so, and they've given lots of information for their children and young adults.
I know you're planning the next Walking Autism project, which sounds like your most impressive project to date, as it's supposed to last 5 months. What is the goal with this project?
So this walk that I'm planning is 5 months and 2,000 kilometers, which sounds crazy, I know. So it's from the central Kenya to the south. And I will be giving 5 workshops, one a month, and my partners will join me in that. And the goal of this next walk is exactly the same as the other ones, to bring awareness, to bring acceptance, to give a voice to autism, and give a presence. It's exactly the same as the goal with the other walk, but of course this one's much longer and much more intense. The logistics of trying to get this whole thing going has been quite hard. Right now I'm looking for sponsorship, which is not the easiest thing in the world, but I'm hoping that this will work. Because the last 2 walks were very successful. We got to meet a lot of people, a lot of interactions, a lot of support. So, yeah, my goal is this walk to have the same effect.
It sounds like a great project. And you were just talking briefly about support. Is there much community support or sponsorship at this time for the project?
As you know, this time is very difficult for everyone. I have had, individual contributions, which is wonderful. I'm not looking at corporates, mainly big corporates, like a large chunk. But of course, with the individual donations are very thankful to that. There is community support. People are, especially in the autism world here, they're aware of me and what I'm doing, and so that's support for sure.
Now, if the listeners of Autism Stories wanted to donate money to support what you're doing and to help ensure that this project happens, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah. So I have a GoFundMe page, which I set up as Sponsor a Kilometer. And the address is bit.ly/Abby Brooke.
And we will share that in the...
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I think the more people that can contribute, of course, the more wide reach I can get, and the more closer we grow as a autistic global community.
Well, Abby, I really appreciated your time. Thanks for figuring out the time zone difference for the two of us, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much, Doug. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Thanks to everyone for listening, and thanks so much to Abby for the conversation. To learn more about Abby and the Walking Autism Project, check out the link in the podcast description of this episode. You can also find a link to book a free call to learn how Autism Personal Coach can help you reduce your daily overwhelm and get the things you need and want in your lives. So book a call with me today. If you'd like to be notified about each week's episode of Autism Stories, we suggest you subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. We would also appreciate it if you could give us a positive rating and review, as it will help others to learn about autism stories. On next week's episode of Autism Stories, we will talk with Eveline Welton about stereotypes that just aren't true about those on the spectrum. Talk to you then.